Hey you guys, how's it going? Decivye here, and welcome back to another Microsoft Flight Simulator video, tutorial video. 787 finally got my hands on this bad boy. And you guys, let me tell you something, the 787, it's something else. It's something else. If you didn't like flying the 747, you will definitely enjoy the 787. In my opinion, it feels better, feels a lot better than the 747. And it just looks really good. I mean, like I've only spent a couple of minutes tinkering around with the 787, but you know what, you guys, I'm enjoying my time, and this might be my my aircraft of choice to fly, you know, this time around. Anyway, you guys, before we begin this tutorial, as always, don't forget to leave a like on this video, subscribe and join the colony, and of course leave some comments down below what you guys want to see next on the channel. Now keep in mind, you guys, as always, this is a beginner's guide, meaning it is not an advanced, you know, tutorial or anything. Today we're just going to be covering how to get the 787 started, how to set up the autopilot, the basic instruments, and how to get it off the ground, up and running. ILS, obviously, it's going to come in the next video. I'll be showing you how to do an ILS landing with a 787. But for now, it's just the pure basics to get this aircraft up and running and up in the air for you guys to freely fly around with. Alright, you guys, with that being said, let's get into this. Okay, you guys, the first thing we're going to do is to get the 787 up and running. And how we are going to do that is by opening our checklist, first of all. And then we're going to click on before starting engine checklist, right? And pretty much this is where we're going to begin. And this feature is handy for all beginners who don't know where the different switches are. And we're going to go through this one by one to get the 787 started. So first off, battery switch. We click the I icon to the right hand side, and it should show you in blue over here where the battery is. Going to tick that on. External power, we have to tick this one on as well if it's on avail, which it was. APU selector, we have to put it on start, then that should go to on automatically on its own. APU gen switches, on when APU is available. So let's go ahead and turn those on. Fuel pumps, gotta make sure those are on, right? Located over here, just click all of them. And the beacon, make sure it's switched on. And boom, that's it. That's your starting and your before starting engine checklist. Not like the 7.8, I mean the 7.4, where there's just so many things to do, right? Then you move on to starting engine. Starting engine is pretty simple. Thrust levers, make sure they're on idle as always. Right engine ignition start, that's above here. So you're just gonna click on switch it to start rather, and then we're gonna go back down to the panel, the engine panel, and make sure this one is turned on for your right engine. And then monitor if you get any reading here. There we go. And then basically you're going to do the same for the left engine. You're just gonna click on start, and then back down here, and then left. And we can close the checklist. Come up over here and just wait for the engines to come alive, you guys. But pretty much that's the 787 all started up, and you can see already everything is working over here. So next thing that you're going to do is obviously request your pushback and get, you know, settled out on the apron so that we could move on with the next procedures. Alright, you guys, we are now out here on the apron. We just finished our pushback. Now the next thing I'm going to be showing you guys is obviously a tour of the flight deck of the 787. I'm going to be showing you the different basic instruments that we will need for flying. So basically just like, you know, our different, you know, panels over here, and, you know, obviously the autopilot as well, and your engine panels over here. I'm going to go through all of that, just the basic things you need to know before flying the 787. I'm not gonna be overwhelming. It's not gonna be overwhelming. I'm just gonna be showing you like the bare basics and what you need. So don't get confused with all these different new high-tech panels. They're all just digital version of the 747's panels. So it should be relatively easy. Let's go ahead and start up over here. As you can see, we have our standard artificial horizon over here with your standard altitude indicator, vertical speed indicator, and your airspeed indicator over here. It's pretty much the same thing, you guys, as the A320 or the 747, except it just looks a little bit different. Up here you have your indicators for your autopilot, whether you're following your heading, your altitude, and I believe it's your speed, if I'm not mistaken. And over here to our center, the center screen over here, we obviously have your heading indicator, and you will have an airport map with all Boeing, panels. They have the airport map, which is a nice touch in my opinion. But pretty much this is your heading indicator, and then you have your engine gauges over here, and over here another ginormous heading indicator, and then pretty much the same side for the co-pilot side over here. Down here we have the FMC, except it's digital now, like it's touchscreen, but you still have your standard panels also over here so that you could, type and whatnot. Moving on down here, we have our flaps to our right over here, speed brakes to our left, engines as usual, pretty much in the same position as it was, in the other aircrafts. Over here we have the comms, where you use to contact control tower. So this is your radio communicator, and then we have the parking brake over here, and I think that's pretty much it. That's all that you guys need to know, at least for getting this up and running, right? Now I'm gonna show you guys the autopilot panel of the 787. So here's your auto throttle over here. This is where this is the dial that's used to increase or decrease your indicated airspeed as you please. This is the auto throttle disconnect and connect, basically to engage or disengage auto throttle. And you obviously want this button also lit up or turned on if you want to manipulate the auto throttle. You have your heading indicator over here, your synchronized to current heading, hold here, and then you have your vertical speed indicator, or your vertical speed bar or setting over here. Then you have your altitude selector over here. Then you have your standard localizer for your ILS and approach mode as well for your ILS. And then this is the autopilot engage button. Notice there's only one. You don't need to worry about three like the 747. There's just one. You click this, engage autopilot, and it should follow whatever you have inputted on your systems. Simple enough, you guys. 787 is looking pretty good, right? Alright, so now that we got that covered, you guys, now let's go on to setting up the aircraft for our taxi to the runway. So the first thing we're going to set up here is obviously our autopilot, right? So the first thing I want to set is our altitude, right? For this flight, we're not going to be going to 10,000 feet. We're going to set this lower. I'm thinking about maybe 5,000 feet for this flight. Boom, right there. And we're not going to touch anything else. Pretty much that's it. Heading. We want to be maintaining runway heading. So what we can do is actually just line up with the runway and then click on this hold button. As you can see, the pink radial over there just synchronized to whatever heading I was facing. So that's pretty much what this button does. It synchronizes to whatever heading you're already facing on, and autopilot is just gonna fly you on that heading, right? So we don't even need to set that up right now. We can just click on the synchronize to current heading once we reach our runway, and then when you turn on autopilot, it should fly in that direction. For our auto throttle, we're gonna leave it as it is for now. 200 knots is fine. and we are not going to be flying on auto throttle right away anyway, so we're going to disconnect auto throttle. Make sure that's disconnected before flight, and that should be your autopilot all set up for takeoff roll, you guys. Next thing we're gonna do is actually set up our flaps for takeoff. So the flap levers are located here, as I've showed before, and for takeoff we want to set it to about I'd say 15 degrees or 10 degrees of flaps for our takeoff roll, and you could see it's coming down here and set to 10 degrees. And with that, you guys, now that the flaps have been set, the autopilot has been set, the next thing you guys will need to do is actually get in contact with air traffic control so that you could taxi to your runway and depart. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Alright, you guys, we are just coming up on runway 24 over here. I'm just going to line ourselves up with the runway so that we could get set for our departure here. And I'm not going to bother showing you like air traffic controls and stuff, because I've already done a video on that, on how to, you know, request for your ATC clearance and stuff. So I'm not going to be showing you guys that on this flight. We are just going to, you know, get on with our lives here. Alright, so once we are lined up with the runway over here, what we want to do pretty much is click on that synchronize button over here, the hold button, so that we line up, our pink radial lines up with the runway, and we can now set toga for takeoff. Make sure your airspeed obviously is alive and increasing. And our rotate speed for the 787 should be somewhere around 160 knots, if I'm not mistaken. So right about here, we want to rotate. And once we have positive rate of climb, we're going to put the gears up.
You were not cleared to take off.
I know we were not cleared to take off. I didn't request for any, you know, air traffic controller and stuff. I'm just, you know, trying to show the good people of Flight Simulator how to fly the 787, right? So take a chill pill, lady. Right. So now that we have successfully, you know, took off from the ground, that is an overspeed indicator. So pretty much you want to bring back the throttle, or, you know, just pitch the nose up a little bit higher. That should solve your issue. Anyway, so now that we got the aircraft up in the air, I'm still flying it by hand right now. Let's go ahead and engage on our autopilot right here. So you can see autopilot indicators is engaged over here. We have a vertical speed set of 4,500. So here's the nice thing, you guys. As soon as I turned on autopilot, it set that up for me. I didn't even need to touch anything. So basically, now that the autopilot is engaged, we're gonna climb to our selected altitude over here of 5,000 feet that we have initially set. And with that, auto throttle can come on here, and then make sure this one is also selected. Turn IAS mode on. It needs to be switched on so that auto throttle, you know, could do its magic, right? And we are getting an overspeed. So there are times where the auto throttle is buggy and it actually doesn't work. I.e., the example we're having right now, where auto throttle is not really functioning the way we want it to. But hopefully the other components of this aircraft will function the way we want it to. I'm gonna try to get this up and running. But if your auto throttle doesn't work and it's not following whatever you want it to do, as you can see right now, it's actually doing its thing. It's going to set that at 200 knots, right? So you can see that it's working fine now. I just had to reset the auto throttle. Yeah, so just switch this on and off, and switch this on and off, and then hopefully it resets, and you could get it back to working condition. So, that being said, as you can see over here, we are now flying on around 5,000 feet, as we have set the autopilot up to fly 5,000 feet. And once we have reached 5,000 feet, the light from the vertical speed mode will switch to the altitude mode over here. So you can see altitude hold has now been switched on, indicating that the autopilot has done its task into getting us to 5,000 feet. Simple enough, right? So, now we're going to be talking about manipulating autopilot in flight, as always. So the first thing we're going to try out here is our heading selector. So to use our heading selector, we want to click on, we want to set up a, oh, I accidentally clicked on bank angle over there. So we want to turn that back to our maximum bank of 25 degrees. Anyway, so turn heading select on. First, we're going to set up our heading over here. So let's set it to fly about 270 maybe, for example. Let's set it up to, yeah, let's set it up to fly 270. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna click on turn heading select on. We're gonna press it, and you can see the pink dial moved to 270 to where we set it up, and the aircraft is now turning to 270, right? Now, once the aircraft reaches a heading of 270, you could either keep it on the heading select on, or you could click on synchronize to current heading so that it flies 270 all the way. So you can see we've reached the heading of 270 down here, and you could just click on hold, and it's gonna hold that position you're currently flying in, right? That's pretty much all there is to heading. And you notice if the synchronize hold button is switched on, if you try to manipulate your heading, it's not gonna work, you guys. You have to click on turn heading select on for it to actually work. So I'm gonna set this up to be like around maybe 240, and you have to click it, and boom, you can see the pink dial went to 240, and now the aircraft is slowly banking to the left to turn to the heading of 240. Easy, right? And it feels really good with the 787. I don't know, it's just it feels so much better than the 74 in my opinion, and I don't actually mind flying this. This might, yeah, be my aircraft of choice over the A320, to be honest. Alright, cool. Now that that's done, you guys, let's go ahead and talk about our altitude, right? Because if you're coming from an Airbus, it's a little bit different here on the Boeing. So the first thing we're going to do to set this up is obviously set our height. So let's say we want to climb to 7,000 feet. So we're going to set that to 7,000. Once we have that set up, we're going to click on turn vertical speed mode on. Boom. Initially, it's going to say 0, and you could just have that increase to 1,300. And we take a look if the aircraft is climbing. It is. Now the aircraft is going to climb to our selected altitude of 7,000. If you run into an experience wherein the aircraft doesn't climb at your selected, vertical speed, what you can do is just switch off the vertical speed mode and turn it back on again, and the aircraft should fly to whatever you want. So I'm gonna set it to 1,300. You should see like a little pink box indicating what you have set. You see that pink box over here on the panel? If you don't see that, you probably want to turn it on and off again just so it can reappear. And then that's pretty much what you have selected, 1,300. And yeah, aircraft is going to climb to 7,000 feet. And once it reaches 7,000 feet, it's going to switch over from the vertical speed mode to altitude hold mode. So, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? And for now, we're going to we're coming off the sea here, the coast, where we just want to turn back really quickly. So we're gonna use autopilot again over here to help us out, right? We're not really flying or holding a heading, so we're gonna turn to about 150 to get us back on land. You know, just because I don't know, I wanna be over land, I guess, and just to show you guys how the autopilot, you know, functions on the 787. It's pretty smooth. Like, what are the issues I've encountered with the 78 so far? So again, sometimes auto throttle doesn't work like you want it to. You have to switch that on and off again for it to correct. What else? There's an issue, or like maybe a bug with the approach mode, but that's for the ILS video. I'll probably let you guys know more about it there. In the meantime, in regards to autopilot, really, I don't have any major issues. There has been a bug going around wherein the autopilot doesn't follow the heading you have selected. There's an easy solve for that, you guys. You just need to click on escape, and then it will open the options menu, and then after, you can just go back in game, and it should turn on and off autopilot again, and it should, you know, correct itself. But pretty much those are the bugs I've encountered so far. Other than that, you guys, the 787 is a beautiful aircraft to fly. It looks really good. And you got this cool thing. Boom. Not that you'll use it, or you could if you want, but I don't really find myself using it too much, but it's cool. and yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all, you know, the details you need to know. What else can I teach you guys while I'm here? Oh, you could switch this up, you know, from map to your flight plan. Although your flight plan is going to be seen on your map anyway. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And you know, you could experiment with these buttons here, with all the other buttons here. Don't be scared. I believe there's a way to even switch them up a bit. Like, yeah, see, bam. You're just exchanging panels. Not sure if you'd want to do that, but yeah. And obviously these are more advanced things, but if you want to, you know, display a little bit more data, you can if you want to. But I'm not going to be showing you guys that for obvious reason. This is a basic, you know, tutorial on how to get this up and running, up in the air, and how to manipulate autopilot. Now, before we close this video off, you guys, I'd like to show you guys the descent. So we're going to set this to go down about 1,000 feet, and then we're going to click on vertical speed mode just so we cover all areas, right? And you can see here that the pink dial didn't show up, so I'm just going to click on that again. Pink dial showed up, and then we can then set however steep we want our descent to be. So I'm going to set it at 1,000 feet per minute, and you guys can see that the aircraft is now descending to 7,000 feet. Once it reaches 7,000 feet, you are going to go from your vertical speed mode all the way to your hold mode. It's going to switch automatically. You don't really need to do anything. It just happens. And that's pretty much it, you guys. There you guys have it. That's the Boeing, I was going to say Airbus, the Boeing 787 basic instruments, autopilot setup, and autopilot in flight, and basically how to get this thing up and running for you guys to, you know, fly in the air. And yeah, hope you guys found this video informative. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys did, don't forget to leave a like on the video. Leave some comments down below, suggestions and feedbacks. If you guys have not already, of course, subscribe and join the colony. Alright, you guys, once again, take care, and I will catch you in the next video.